Okay, so I'll begin.
Yeah.
We have a nice group today.
Yeah.
I haven't had a nice group like this in a long time.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to.
Whatever. Okay. All right. Then it better be good, Okay. So I'm gonna discuss something that I heard from Rabbi Daniel Gladstein, but I'm gonna try to add on it. Okay.
What is
his name is Rabbi Daniel Gladstein. He's been here. He's been here before. He's been here. So he brought something very amazing here, and I want to build on it. Okay. Yeah, he's fantastic, and sometimes I hear a share. I'm very inspired by it, and I'm gonna take what he said, explain it to you, and then also build on it and connect it with some other things like so. There's an idea of if you hear something to add on to it. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. As someone once told me, a good artist copies, but a great artist steals. So I'm going to steal his share and then make it mine. And then,
you tell it before.
Huh?
You tell it before that you steal his share.
Yeah.
Just recording the show.
Okay, yeah. So no one can come against me with copyrights. No. Okay, so in the end of this week's parsha with the Makas, it was the Barad. No competition here. Okay.
Hey, it's very good.
Okay.
Then stop.
So in the Makkah Barad. In the Makkah Barad, it says Vish after the Barad came down and destroyed everything. So Vishlach Paro sent from and he called Moshe, Yikra Moshe Aaron, Vayomer Alehem, and he said to them, Chatasi apam, this time I've sinned. Hashem Hatzadik, Vani Va'ami Harishayim. Hashem is right, and I'm the evil guy. Why don't you pray to Hashem? Right. Itira el Hashem, Rabbi Yosef Kolos Elokim Ubarad Bashachai Etchem V'lo Tosifo Lamod. So in other words, I'll let you go, but it sounds very much like Paro is doing tshuva here. How else would you if you
sure, but nevertheless afterwards he was drunk into the sea.
Yeah, okay, but this sounds like tshuva with vidui, the way the Rabbeinu Yonah would say on Erev Yom Kippur, if you were going to sin, you would say a person has to admit his sin and he has to say ani chatasi. And Paro's doing he sounds like a guy Erev Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. He sounds like he's like if you would ask somebody, this would sound like this is a perfect vidui. This is like a perfect way of doing tshuva. Maybe afterwards he changed his mind, but right now at this point he says Hashem Atzadik. Vani Vamir Rishayim, I admit I'm a Rasha. Hashem is right. Chatasi apam. I mean, what else is the man supposed to do? It sounds like he's doing perfect tshuva. So, and also he points out that there's something very interesting. But it says over here. Vayomer elav Moshe, Katzeti et ha'ir afoshet kapay el Hashem, akolot yichtulun, v'barad lo ye'od, v'man tedu ki l'Hashem ha'aretz, v'tav avadecha yadati, ki terem terum b'nei Hashem Elokim. For the first time in the Chumash, ever since, believe it or not, Sefer Bereshit, the combination of Hashem Elokim is being used here. Okay? In other words, in the Chumash, if you look in the Chumash, in the very beginning of the Chumash, we have the name Elokim. the whole time. Bereshit bara Elokim. Elokim, 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 Elokim. As soon as man is created, then it says Hashem Elokim. V'yivra. I don't have a Chumash Bereshit here, but it says the first time it says the Elu told us Shemayim v'aretz behi baram, ve'Elu told Shemayim v'aretz Hashem Elokim. For the first time, Hashem, when Hashem uses the name the name Hashem Yud Kei Vav Kei is used with Elokim, is in connection with the creation of man and the told us of man. And like our Chazal say that the name Elokim is Midas Hadin, and the name Yud Kei Vav Kei is Rachamim. And in order for the world to be Miskayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to add Midas Arachamim to Hashem had to add Midas Harachamim to Midas Hadin. So in the very, very beginning of creation, the whole time it's Elokim. And then when it comes to man, it says Elo told us Shemayim v'aretz behi baram, b'yos Hashem Elokim, right? B'yom asot Hashem Elokim meretz v'shamayim. And then he uses Hashem Elokim the whole time. Ki lo imtir Hashem Elokim, v'yitzer Hashem Elokim at the Adam. So like the whole time it was Elokim. As soon as man comes on the scene, it's Hashem Elokim. Hashem Elokim, Hashem Elokim. But it only lasts in Parshas Bereshit. After Parshas Bereshit, it's either Hashem or Elokim, separately,
not together,
never together again. After Parshas Bereshit, it stops. We never have Hashem Elokim together again until until Paro, until Paro, and until Makas Barad. Then all of a sudden we have Hashem Elokim again. The Moshe uses it. Moshe says, what does he say? He says, he says, Vayomer elav Moshe katzeti et ha'ira foshkapai el Hashem akol yikdom barad. 1 second. Where is it? Where I had it just a minute ago. Paro said, Hashem tzaddik v'ani ami rashaim, but tira et Hashem. Here, ki terem terum v'tava decha yadati ki terem tiraun mipnei Hashem Elokim. Like I also know, like v'pishta v'asar nukasa ki asar avi v'pishta gvul. So all of a sudden he says, ki terem terum mipnei Hashem Elokim. I want you to fear Hashem Elokim. So this is where it comes back. So why? Okay, that's the question. Also, we find an interesting thing that Moshe comes before Paro, and he says to Paro, that I want you to let the Jews go. Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, I come b'Shem Hashem. You should let the Jews go, right? And Paro says, Mi Hashem, Asher, who is Hashem that I should listen to him? Who is Hashem? Like he says, Mi Hashem Asher Eshma B'Kolo. Who is this Hashem? Like he never heard of Hashem, right? And the name over there is used Hashem. And that's actually what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying. He said, he was complaining to Hashem in the beginning of in the end of last week's parsha. He says, like Hashem said, go with my name before Paro, and Moshe Rabbeinu was complaining to Hashem. From the time I went to Hashem b'shmecha, he was very hard on us. He made things worse, and Moshe Rabbeinu is complaining because I went with your name. Since the time I went with your name, things got worse. So he wants to explain like this. Also, let's just ask one more question here, and then we'll kind of talk about the whole thing. There's a kind of a question here. When Moshe Rabbeinu, by the third Makkah, the Chartumim say to they say to Paro, "Etz Belokim hi," and yeah, and Hashem says, and he said to Moshe, and I know that Paro is not going to listen, right? And I know that Paro is not going to listen to you, right? And that's actually what happens. Let me just find that over here. Where is it? He says he's not going to listen, and it says that Paro did not listen to them. That's what happened.
Yeah.
God says to Paro, God says to Moshe, I know that I'm going to send you to Paro, and Paro's not going to listen to you. And the pasuk says that the Chartumim Bemet, they said, the Chartumim said that it's Etz Belokim, and Bemet Paro did. It says Paro did not listen to them. He did not listen to them, and he said, and he didn't. Even though they said this is the Etz Belokim, he did not listen to them, and he did not send out Bnei Yisrael like Hashem had said to Moshe. Just like Hashem had said to Moshe that Paro would harden his heart and would not listen. That's exactly what happened. That even when the Chartumim said it's the Etz Belokim, it's the finger of God, it says he did not listen to them. The problem is there's a sefer called the Tzlach. The Tzlach, because it's the Noda Yehuda. He has a sefer called the Tzlach. And he says, he asks a question. That's not what Hashem said. If you read the verse, the simple meaning of the verse, it sounds like they said it was the Etz Belokim. They said it was the finger of God. And he did not listen to them. Who is them? Them sounds like the Chartumim. He didn't listen to them. They said it's Etz Belokim, and he just listened to them like God said. But God didn't say that. God never said that Paro would not listen to the Chartumim, that he would not listen to his magicians, his wise men. God never said that. God said he would not listen to Moshe and Aaron. So who is them? And if you want to say, and he did not listen to them, so then what does it have to do with the fact that the Chartumim said that's Belokim, and therefore he did not listen to them? That would l'chora be a reason that he should listen to them. It's not a reason not to listen to them. It's like the Torah is giving, because the Chartumim said it was Etz Belokim, therefore Moshe did not listen, Paro did not listen to Moshe and Aaron, like Hashem said. But that's a reason to, yes, listen to Moshe and Aaron, not a reason not to listen to Moshe and Aaron, right? That's the question of the Tzlach. So the Tzlach gives an amazing answer. Or, I'm not sure, I don't remember if it's Gladstein's answer or the Tzlach's answer, but he wants to say like this. This is the big fundamental yesod that kind of answers all the question. Did Paro believe in God? Did Paro believe in God?
His own God.
So.
Huh?
His own God.
At the end, yes, but
Yeah.
at that moment, not.
Okay, so we find, you know, you have to kind of be insane not to believe in God. Like, there's a book called the Chavos Salavavos, and he brings there, it's called Shar Bechina, where you can look at creation, you can see God. And he says, like, for 15 pages to fall, if you take a book with 15 pages and the pages are random, for them to fall 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, it's like to the power of billions that they should fall in order. So when you look at the world and you see such order in to a magnitude, the wisdom that's just in any creature, the amount of wisdom that goes into the human eye, it's hard not to see God. And also we find that Paro didn't have a problem with Elohim. He didn't have a problem with God. Elohim means God, the power. That there's a supreme power. That's what Elohim means. Elohim means a supreme power. We don't find that Paro really had a big problem with that, because we find either he learned it from Joseph, but he accepted it. When Joseph said, "No, these dreams are not from me," it's like Paro said, "Is there anybody as wise as Joseph, as you, Joseph, that you know the answers to the dreams?" Joseph said, "Yeah, it's Asher Hanani Elohim. It's only because Hashem Elohim." He didn't say Hashem. He said it's because Elohim, God. It's what God taught me, and Paro accepted that. Yes, it's what. So Paro understood the concept that there's a God, that there's a creator. He understood that. He accepted that. He didn't have a problem with that. He didn't have a problem with that. He totally understood that. He learned that lesson from Joseph back then, and he accepted the fact that there's something called Elohim. There's a power of all powers that he could accept. But the name Elohim, is the numerical value 86. The numerical value of, like there was these people, they said, "Rabbi, how can you say it's," this is a bad sense, he's got a good sense of humor. He says, "Rabbi, how can you say Elohim is gematria 86? The kuf alone is 100. It's Elohim, right? It's we say Elohim, but it's not a kuf, it's a hey.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so it's Elohim is 86.
Difference from 95.
Yeah. 86 is the numerical value of the word teva, nature. So Paro, he didn't have a problem with God, and that there's something that God created called nature. And there is nature, and God is the supreme power of this world that works al derech hateva, and that God, let's say, even created the teva. What Paro had a problem was with now that teva's created, like he had a problem with that anything will change. Like there are rules, there's biology, there's physics. These are undisputable laws that cannot be changed. Now that God created these things, they're stuck. It's like that's reality, and the system cannot be overridden. This is a system that God created. This is God's system, and this is the way it is. And also, like he made sure to take a nice high position in there. Maybe God is the supreme power, but I'm also, when it comes to nature, I'm very high up there, and
just a remark, that's the same what Spinoza said without metaphysica.
Okay,
without
there are a lot of people. It's also the problem with the Greeks. This is a reoccurring problem, and we'll see who was the first one to come up with this. It was not Paro. It was not Paro that had this philosophy. The first one to come up with this, we're going to see, was the snake, the Nachash. And Paro actually modeled himself up to Nachash. He was called the big Nachash Paro is actually the gematria of Nachash plus 3. Paro is the numerical value, right? Paro is 355. Nachash is 358. With the 3, we can add 3 because Paro Melech Mitzrayim, and an extra 3 to 3. Paro Melech Mitzrayim, 3 words. You get Nachash. Okay, so Paro, and he modeled himself. He called himself, "I'm the big Nachash that that is sits in the Yor." He was called the great serpent. He called himself the great serpent of the Nile River. That's the Paro symbolized himself with. Called himself the great serpent. So, by the way, the letters Paro is, if you scramble it around, it's the food of the Nachash. Ha'afar, the dust, right? Because the food of the curse of the Nachash was that he eats the dust. So Paro, his letters, Ha'afar. So Paro didn't have a problem with Elohim. What Paro's real problem was the name Hashem. He had a very big difficulty with this name Hashem. And that's what Hashem said to Moshe, go b'shmi, go into Paro. And that's what Moshe is complaining about. Ever since I've gone in with Hashem, this enrages Paro. The name of Hashem, which was written on the staff of Moshe, right? Which was written on the staff of Moshe. That enraged Paro, because it's all against the philosophy of Paro. Paro thought Teva is an absolute. Nature is an absolute. The laws of physics are undisputable. They cannot be moved. True, they're a creation of God, but now that they're in existence, that's reality, and there can be no other reality than nature itself. And the laws of nature can't be suspended. That was Paro's philosophy. And so Paro didn't have a problem with God, but he had a problem. Well, with Rachamim, God's mercy, like if we go with nature is midas hadin, because that's the reality. You fall out, you jump out of a building, you fall down, splat. You can't mess with nature. Nature can be very cruel. Because that's just the reality of this is it. If you don't have food, you die. If you do have food, you live. Like, that's nature, right? But we know with Midas Harachamim, when we call out in the name of Hashem, when we call B'Shem Hashem, because the Jewish people have a connection not just with Elohim, with both. When Hashem gave us the 10 Commandments, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Hashem has a connection with the Jewish people, have the name Hashem Elohim. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, right? We are a nation, but we live with B'Shem Hashem. And it was the Shem Hashem that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hayah Hoveh V'yeh, that transcends nature, that nature is not an absolute, that there's something of Hashem exists before time in nature, and Hashem will exist after time in nature. This concept infuriated Paro. And that's what Moshe was doing the whole time. He was coming b'Shem Hashem. He came with his staff b'Shem Hashem. I'm going to do this in b'Shem Hashem. And that was driving Paro out of his box. It was driving him mad. But that's what Hashem wanted him to do. Who is me Hashem? Who is Hashem that I believe in God? Yes. But that I believe that there's something called Hashem, that Hashem speaks to his prophets, and he gives mankind the ability to supersede nature. which actually, if you think about it, that's what Yetzias Mitzrayim was all about. Mitzrayim is boundaries. It's the idea of being bound by nature. That's what the concept of Mitzrayim was. Mitzrayim didn't depend on the rain. Mitzrayim depended on the Nilus. Everything was like set up. Everything exists. It's all with timetables. We have it all figured out. We understand the physics. We understand everything. We understand nature. We know the physics, the laws, the math, the science. We got it all. We got it all figured it out. It's all under our control because, yeah, maybe God created it, but now that's the reality, and that reality can't be changed anymore. And that's it. And even Hashem is bound to that, right? And Teva becomes, so to speak, a God in itself, right? So much so that, it's nice to have spirituality, but it doesn't really have anything to do with this world anymore because now this world is reality on its own. That becomes a kind of religion on its own, that belief. Okay. That was actually the war that the Yavanim were also having with the Jews. There's the same war about spirituality. In other words, can you connect spirituality to this world? And they said no, because this world is nature. Now, the Ramban, these are a few things that I'm adding already to what Gladstein said, but we'll come back to what Gladstein said. But the Ramban, when he talks about all the Nisim, the Ramban at the end of Parshas Bo, when he talks about, all the miracles that Hashem did and why Hashem brought these miracles, if you think about it, why did Hashem bring the miracles? Why did he bring the 10 plagues? Why did he bring miraculous plagues? The answer is to show, the Ramban says, like this. He said, there are a lot of people with false beliefs, just like Paro here had a false belief, thinking that nature is a reality on its own. A lot of people, maybe they don't believe in God, or they believe God created the world and left the world. There are a lot of crazy ideas that people can have that are apikourses. Okay, whether people are consciously aware of this is how they believe or not, doesn't matter. That's what they believe. And Hashem, he can't make miracles every Monday and Thursday for every idiot who's out there. There are a lot of idiots, if you've noticed. There are a lot of idiots out there, okay? And a lot of idiots are given a microphone also, okay? And Hashem, it just would be very counterproductive for Hashem to, every Monday and Thursday, or let's say once a week, make the 10 plagues. It's disruptive. It's not good for the economy to destroy everything every week, right? So Hashem decided, you know what? I'm going to make as Akiva Tatz, not Akiva Tatz, Rabbi Tauber, as real Tauber used to say. He used to say it wasn't 10 plagues, it was 10 seminars. The plagues were for both Paro in the world and also for the Jewish people. As much as they were retribution against Paro, they were also a refuah and a strengthening of Emunah for the Jewish people and for the world, for that matter, to teach the principles once and for all to the world. Hashem had to show it one time. He's not going to show it every Monday and Thursday, but he's going to do it one time in history. And this is the famous Ramban there. And every single plague demonstrated in different ways, some in the heaven, some in the earth, some in the airspace, in every aspect of life in the world, in every aspect of the creation, in a different way, was showing a different ability of Hashem, a different way he controls and connects, how he communicates to his prophets, how he has total control over everything. Every Makkah was a different lesson, was a different seminar, one aspect about Hashem's total control, and also that he can suspend nature. Okay. However, and the Ramban finishes off and he says that's why it's so important that we remember Yetzias Mitzrayim. But we are addicted to Yetzias Mitzrayim as a nation. We have OCR. What is that called? OCR. What's it called? When you are what's it called? You're a doctor.
Medical term.
It's a medical term.
OCR?
Yeah, it's no, like
obsessive compulsive
compulsive.
Oh,
What's it called?
disorder. OCD.
OCD.
Oh,
OCD.
okay, yeah.
The Jewish people have an OCD problem when it comes to mentioning Yetzias Mitzrayim. We say, oh, Yetzias Mitzrayim this, Yetzias Mitzrayim that, Yetzias Mitzrayim that. Like, we're obsessed with obsessive compulsive disorder, right? We have to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim and everything. So the Rambam explains why, because Hashem demonstrated this one time. We have to integrate that into ourselves. That lesson was taught and we witnessed it, and we have to integrate it into ourselves, pass it on to our children. We put it on our doorsteps, on our doorposts. We wear it on our head. We say it in every mitzvah we do. Yetzias Mitzrayim, Yetzias Mitzrayim, Yetzias Mitzrayim. Why? Because with Yetzias Mitzrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu demonstrated all the principles of our faith, and that he suspends nature. And that's how the Ramban finishes. The Ramban finishes by saying that whoever doesn't believe that, you know what the greatest miracle of them all is? The greatest miracle of them all is nature itself. That nature itself is just repetitive miracle. That's what nature is, and that's what Paro didn't believe. But Paro didn't believe that. Paro said, no, nature's just, that's the way it is. It's not a miracle. It's not repetitive miracle. But the Ramban writes, whoever doesn't believe that the greatest miracle of all miracles is nature, doesn't have a chelik. He doesn't have a chelik b'Torah's Moshe. That's the Ramban. That's how he finishes off over there. That's what he says. And so Paro, he didn't believe in this. He didn't believe that there's something called Hashem. Mi Hashem Asher.
He believed, but didn't he believe?
He believed in nature. He believed that God created nature, that there's a God, but then nature is a reality. God can go away for that matter, and now I'm in charge, He made himself a God because he said, look, I know how to run nature and I know how to deal with nature and I got everything under my control. And, and so it's very nice of God. Thanks for creating it, but now butt off. Yeah, butt off and let me handle it. I can do a better job than you, there are a lot of people that think like that, right? So all of a sudden, now the point is like this: when the Chartumim said Etzbe Elokim, right? This is the finger of God. They weren't actually They weren't actually helping Moshe and Aaron. They were helping Paro's belief. They said, Paro, you don't have anything to worry about. This is not Hashem. This is nature itself. It's God's nature, but it's nature. In other words, there is an argument between the Barbanel, the famous Barbanel, and the Malbi. There's an argument. The Barbanel says that the 10 plagues could be explained in a natural way, that everything is nature. First of all, you had the Nile River becoming polluted. Okay, well, what happens when things get polluted? So, things becomes a lot of, the frogs have to leave the river. I mean, it's polluted. So that's why the frogs came. And then what happens when you're a frog? People are itching. It's terrible. It's bad for the skin. So then the lice come. And what happens when there's so much lice? Well, it causes diseases that are going to cause the animals to die. And the animals are going to go crazy. And they're going to get very, very wild. And so they could explain all of the 10 plagues in a natural way. They didn't have to say, this is necessarily God. It could be explained in that it's nature. And the Malbim comes along and says, God forbid we should say that the plagues were something natural. Of course, they were completely supernatural, completely above nature. But Rav Avigdor Miller, he wants to say that this argument between the Abarbanel and the Malbim is actually can explain what was going through Paro's head in the Chartumim's head. How did they look at the Makos? They looked at the Makos the way the Abarbanel said you could explain the Makos. They tried to justify it that it's just Etzba Elokim. It's nature. So what the Chartumim were saying was actually strengthening. You don't have to accept this Hashem business. We still have rational ways of explaining it, that it's just nature, it's Etzba Elokim. And so therefore you don't have to accept this Hashem yet. So therefore he didn't listen, and he hardened his heart, and he didn't listen to Moshe and Aaron like Hashem said. That's the explanation. It's unbelievable. Nice. It's a whole different way of understanding it. Of understanding it. Now, who was the first to come along? Who was the first to come along and with this hashkafa, this belief system of Paro? It was the Nachash, the snake, in the beginning of creation, because like we mentioned, in the beginning of creation, it was Hashem Elokim. In the beginning, it was Elokim, 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 nature. But then Kadosh Baruch Hu, as soon as man comes in, Adarabba, man, in order to live, he needs the mercy, he needs the special hashkacha, he needs that. If we just leave it to nature, man ain't going to survive. We need the special hashkacha, the special watching over of Hashem, that man can pray to Hashem, and that man, with his connection to God, through his tefillah, can bypass nature. That we are able to bypass nature, and that is the story of the Jewish people, by the way. For good or for bad, we are able to override the system. That is our strength. That it's the Hashem. And this was driving Paro out of his box. This was driving him crazy. Mi Hashem Hashma B'Koli. I don't want to hear about this Hashem. And Moshe said, no, there's Hashem. It was written on a stick. It was every single time. And now Hashem will do this and Hashem will do that. And he was driving Paro mad. And Paro was getting madder and madder and madder. Because I don't want to hear about this Hashem business. I don't want to hear about if it's up to Hashem, there's no place for me anymore, right? I have no power then. I have nothing. My power is that I'm very high in the hierarchy of nature. I'm a king, and I have control over Mitzrayim, and I'm the king of the natural world. The moment that you come to me with Hashem, and that Hashem can override the system, that's taking away all of my power. That means I'm actually Ein Zulato. There's nothing but Hashem. That means I'm not a reality. So Paro's not going to accept this. So Paro's not going to accept the Hashem business. Mi Hashem Asher Hashma B'Koli. Who was the first one to tempt Chava, to get her to eat from the tree? What did the Nachash do? He was very, very tricky. He was almost as tricky as the BBC and CNN. Yeah, he was. How do you do it? You just leave something out of the news. You don't have to you tell the truth, but you leave it out. And he mentioned, this is the tree that he says, no, Elohim. He said over there, what is the Nachash says, no, it's just that Elohim, he left out the Hashem. That's the first time after the Torah brings Hashem Elohim, it keeps using Hashem Elohim. The first place it stops is when the snake speaks to Chava and says, no, Elohim never said that. You know, you can, Elohim doesn't want you to eat from the tree because then you'll be like him. He doesn't mention, he leaves out the Hashem. The moment, because he wants to say to Chava, all there is nature. And now, in the beginning, it may have been, Hashem may have been first and he created, but now there's nature. And now there's nature. You can also eat from the tree and be like God, because you know how to manipulate nature. We can figure out a way, with science, we can do amazing things. And this is the reality now. And like Hashem, it's nice what Hashem created, but we can do a better job. Our artificial strawberries are, just as good as the real thing, and they're even better, and everything like that. They cause cancer and everything. Okay, but whatever. So the Nachash could only tempt Chava by leaving out this concept of Hashem, because then everything goes down into the world of nature, and in the world of nature, then you could have like this dimion that Hashem is not here in nature anymore. He's gone. It's like he created it, but now nature kind of works on its own. There you can start having ideas that I'm a God, that I can be equal to Hashem, that we can control nature better. All these crazy ideas of fighting with Hashem only exists when we think that nature has a power and existence on its own, which is what the concept that Paro represented. So the very first time that this was that this concept was left out was this. Now, I'm going to add to this a little bit. So he brought from Rav Shimshon Astropoli, very, very interesting. Where are we holding in time here?
10 minutes.
Okay. He brings that like when Paro, it sounded like Paro sounded like a big tzaddik when he said, that he says, Shema tzaddik, vani Rishaim, like he's mentioning Hashem, and he's accepting Hashem. And Rav Shimshon Astropoli says, he brings, Gladstein, he brought from Rav Shimshon Astropoli. Shimshon Astropoli is a great Bakubal. It seems somehow very, very far back, I discovered that I might be a descendant of Rav Shimshon Astropoli. Okay? So if there's anything good that I ever say, it's probably because of him. Okay. We found that a great grandfather of a great grandfather is a great grandson of the Shimshon Astropoli.
It's great.
Wow,
Anyhow,
it's great.
It sounds great. It sounds great.
Great.
It sounds great. Okay.
Als de death of the first born, bij de dood van de eerstborn, then he said, now I know that.
So what did he say? So he says, Paro says, Vayishlach Paro b'yikra leMoshe el Aaron v'yomer lehem chatasi apam. Right, I sinned this time. Hashem tzaddik, vani v'ami arishaim. Hashem is right, and we're evil. So now listen to Rav Shimshon Astropoli. He says, Hashem tzaddik. Look, you have the name of Hashem here hinted, right? And he says Hashem tzaddik, right? So it sounds like he's submitting to Hashem. Hashem is right, yeah. Hatiru el Hashem, right? But no. He's very crafty, this Paro. He's a very sneaky guy. Okay, he obviously also knew about the Shimshon Astropoli, because he says like this. He says, Hashem HaTzadik, okay? So Hashem HaTzadik is Yud, HaTzadik is Hey, right? Yeah. No, yeah, but look, you have the name of Hashem here in Rosh Teves. Hashem HaTzadik, then there's Vani, and me. Vami Harishaim, in my nation are the evil ones. So Vami Harishaim is the Vav and the Hey of Hashem's name. So you have Hashem HaTzadik, Yud Hey, and then you have the Vav Hey, but he's splitting the name of Hashem up, and he's putting Vani. Vani. No. The ego can divide the name of Hashem. So it sounds like he's being a big tzaddik, but he's saying, no. It's Vani. Vani. It's still me. It's me, not this Hashem business. I'm dividing up the name of Hashem, and it's not. And he brought from the Shla Kodesh. It's a very beautiful idea. He says, because we see from here also, like Chazal say, if the person has a big ego, it pushes Hashem away. Hashem cannot live with I and the Baal Gaiva, we can't live in the same house together. Right? Hashem says, there's no room for me in this Baal Gaiva, in the same world. We can't fit in the world together. I don't want to tell you who wins the battle in the end, But
to your opinion.
I was going to behave myself and not mention Trump today.
Okay.
I was doing so well. Okay. Okay. So listen, Hashem HaTzadik. So like this, and he says like this. Hillel said, "Im ena ni li, mi li." Right? Kishani latzmi mani. Right? If I'm not going to be for myself, who's going to be for me? Right? I have to be me. And if I'm not going to be me, who's going to be me? But if I'm only for myself, who am I? Right? So he says this expression, God also says this. God also says, if Hillel can say it, God can also say it. So he says, Im einani li mi li, right? If I will not be for me, meaning I don't put my name, Yud K Vav K, in this world, who's going to do it? I have to override nature, right? Because I have to use my name in this world. So any li me li, I have to make my name, my great name, known in this world. About kishani latzmi mani, meaning when I'm being myself, then mani means I will. Then people will start saying, here's a little different. People will say mani, like marabu masecha. Once I do this, then people will say, how amazing is such. Then mani, then I become marabu masecha Hashem. People will recognize my name in the world. It's a cute way of saying that through Hashem shows his name in the world. But anyway, Paro is intercepting Vani, so he's putting Vani here. So he's actually kicking Hashem out and saying, no, he's pretending that he's being a big tzaddik and doing tshuva, but no, he's not. And what I wanted to say was like this Sfas Emes, he talks about how the 10 plagues, the world was created with 10 sayings. And the world was created with the 10 sayings. And two ideas I want to say. The world was created with the 10 sayings. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought the 10 makot, right? And through the 10 makot, the 10 sayings turned into the Saras HaDibros. They turned into the 10 commandments. So what is that doing? What it's doing is it's peeling nature. It's like, and it works like this. Let's just take some as example. We can go through every makkah and every mimer of creation in every makkah, and then turn it into a dibur. How do we do that? Well, what was the first mimer of Hashem? Let there be light. No, Bereshit. Bereshit is the first. The Reshit. Okay. What was the last Makkah? The firstborn. That corresponds to in the beginning, right? First.
Yeah.
Right. We go last Makkah, first mimer, because it's like peeling an onion. So you start from the back. So the last Makkah was the Makot Bechorot, the first son. That corresponds to Bereshit, in the beginning, first. And what mimer did that become? What 10 commandment does that become? Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I'm God, your God. Bereshit bara Elokim, right? Firstborn, right? If Hashem came out of Mitzrayim, Ani Hashem Elokecha, the firstborn can't exist because Hashem is the first, right? So, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. When Anochi Hashem Elokecha, there can't be a firstborn exist. The only reason why the Jewish firstborn could exist was because the Jew and the Hashem are one. But the firstborn Mitzrayim is a stira to the first Hashem being the first, right? All right, let's go on to the second one. The second one was, the second mimer was, let there be light. Light and darkness, right? What was the last Makkah, the second to last Makkah? Darkness. What's the second commandment? There should be no other gods. Other gods is the darkness of the world. When there are that's the darkness. That's when the light is knowing there's one God. Darkness is thinking that there are other powers, right? So that's this. And so you could go, you get it? So in other words, the last Makkah, it goes in a reverse order because it's like peeling an onion. You go from the outside in. So the last Makkah corresponds to the first Dibor, to the first mimer and the first Dibor. So what are we doing? What we're doing is we're peeling away nature, because nature is a facade that actually hides Ani Hashem. Mi Hashem Hashma B'Koli. Paro doesn't want to see Hashem. But if you look in nature, actually you can see Hashem. Nature is the biggest miracle. But you have to be able to see it. You have to be able to peel it. In order to peel it, we needed the 10 makos to reveal the hidden, that in every mimer, like the purpose of creation is actually for the Saras Dibros, to be under the Hanhaga of Hashem, to be under the commandments of Hashem. But it's not readily, you can't see it immediately in nature. You can hide in nature. Nature hides Hashem. Like Paro wanted to believe in nature, because with nature you can say, no, there's a reality on its own, and Hashem is not here, and I don't have to listen to Hashem. But the Makos, what they did was it's like peeling an onion. It's like they peeled away the facade that you can't hide anymore, and you have to recognize Hashem. That was the purpose of the Makos. Okay, and this was actually also we mentioned with the war with the Greeks, right? And I don't have time to go into it, but we say we have to light the menorah at shetichla haregel min hashuk, to the last foot leaves the market. And the word there is regel, and the Sfas Emes says the rabbis are hinting that you need to light the light of the candles to the point where you recognize that there's no such thing as nature. There's no such thing as normal. Regilut, regel is a language of regilut, of normal. Regular in English. In English, it's regular. Regel, because there's nothing more regular than walking, right? So you have to light until the last foot leaves the market, meaning that you have to light the menorah until you recognize that there's no such thing as nature. And that was the purpose of the Makos, to reveal that, to reveal to Paro and everybody that goes in the way of the first snake, the Paro, the Avanim, they all made the same mistake, and there are people still making the same mistake today, that a person doesn't have a portion in the Torah of Israel until they understand that the biggest miracle of them all is nature itself.
Sure.
Oh, nice.
That's very nice.
Ja.
Het is heel,
Dat is heel,
heel mooi, maar
ja, maar
ja, hoe onthoud je het?
ik heb het opgenomen, dus ik weet dat ook niet. Kun je het wel opsturen straks? Ja, maar dat doet wel niet. I have the next one. If you can, 12 March, dus 12 Adar.
De villa.
Oh, wat
Je maakt een opmerking op de villa. Ja,
It's very close to Purim.
Friday
Zou ik wat zeggen? Hij zegt
And
dat
this
het
would
dus
be
degene die
Wednesday.
die schitterend waren door Boris.
Okay.
Friday is full.
Yeah, we're ready for Purim.
Hij
Okay.
That's had to say Monday.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
set
so-
to say,
so
it's the week before
it will be-
Purim.
it will
They say
be-
the week after Purim, okay.
Yeah, but it will be a share about Purim, obviously.
Okay,
I mean, obviously.
I think so.
Koud, joh.
Ja.
Dat is al niet warm hierin.
Dit voor mij.
Oh, zet ik het in?
Wacht even, hier, ik heb nog een koppeltje.
Nog een koppeltje. Jij doet dit, hè? Jij doet die twee, ik neem deze.
Okay, it's very interesting there. I have to tell you.
Ga meteen doen.
Nou, het was interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Wacht even.
Ja, het was very interesting. Ja.
Ja,
Nice.
een moment, ik moet even wijzigen. Dus 12
Zal ik even ruimte maken? Dat je moet niet genoeg? Oké.
Goed, oké.
Nou,
Nee, je kan
Scout.
speak about Purim.
Scout.
Yes. Oh, my. Eventjes. Ja. Goed.